Action.
My name is Jack Langdon. I was in the United States Navy during the Korean War. I enlisted in January of 1951. I served through December of 1954, so just about 4 years.
Everyone's smart about He's at night.
Went to boot camp in San Diego at the Naval Training Center. Had an interesting experience.
Smart cop.
Learned, the responsibility and the concept of discipline, because I came from a rather tainted background in Los Angeles, and that street kind of guys, it was different then. Anyhow, like an able career got off to a really bad start because they give you a test when you're in boot camp, 90 people in your company, and they give you a test. After about halfway through boot camp, it determines what school you can go to, what they can train you for. Well, I have to have come down with rubella or 3-day measles the day they gave the test. And I fell asleep 4 times during the test. And so the offshoot of that is, when they posted it in the dorm, there's 90 guys. And I'm thinking, OCS, here I come, because I was a really good test taker. And then I'd taken a lot of tests because I had a sister who was a child prodigy. And so we used to go to SC, UCLA all the time, and they'd test the family. And I wasn't a prodigy like she was, but I was, I was helpable. And so, anyhow, make a long story short, so when they posted, I thought, I'm looking up there, and I thought, OCS, here I come. I'm going down there, and I'm 12 points dumber than any of the 90 other 89 guys. And I knew that all you had to do was double the score, and you had your IQ. And I think I had a 35, which gave me a 70, which made me a moron. People think moron's just an insult, but actually it's a technical term in psychology, on your IQ level. So that entitled me to no schools. They decided I was retarded, so they easily sent me to sea. And they put us on the ship, called a seaplane tender. As soon as I came aboard the ship, the guy looked at my record. It must have said retarded in big letters, because it said, "Do you like to mess cook?" That's how they talked to me. And he said that you went up to Puget Sound at Whidbey Island, and then they could transfer us to Seattle, where we caught a troop ship. They took 45 of us on the troop ship to, we were taking 5,000 Canadians non-stop to Busan, Korea. And that was a very interesting experience. But actually, that was kind of a famous trip, because and magazines all covered it, because these guys, they had 5 of them. They had, what a Mohawk is. Well, they had 5 of them with a letter on their head, a K and O, and it's spelled out Korea. And so that made all, Time and Newsweek and all that stuff. And the Red Cross was there, giving coffee and donuts. As soon as they got their shots, they snagged their coffee and left, which lost my faith in the Red Cross, the phonies. So we went to Busan, Korea. And it was interesting because we were on a troop ship with 5,000 things, and we're going to a war zone. And in this war zone, we didn't have any anti-aircraft guns. We were on a troop ship, but it wasn't really serious. I say that to psych out my family, but they didn't have an Air Force, so there was no danger realistically. So we were there. So some of the fun things we did, because most people forget that Korea was a United Nations enterprise. I don't believe we've actually had one since then. So we had soldiers from all over, a lot of Aussies and New Zealanders, but our favorite was the Turks. So we'd go up to the Turkish soldiers and say, "Let me see your sword." And their tradition is they can't take their sword out without drawing blood. And so and then we'd say, "Wow, that's cool." Then the next guy'd walk up, and then next guy. That was our big idea of humor. So after that, we left Korea, went to Japan, Yokohama or Yokosuka, depending on your skills. And I'm in the Bay there for a while. And so it was a 9-month tour. Oh, one of the more interesting things that we went up the north to Hokkaido, to a city called Bokadati. And it's the world's foremost squid catching company. And they have these squid out on the lines like sheets. And the smell was the most unbelievable odor. We anchored as far away from it as possible, but it didn't matter. The smell just permeated our entire ship. And so I remember that distinctly. That was a very interesting experience. But probably jumping ahead a little, I actually made 3 tours in my 4-year term. Although legally they can only send you 2, but they figured I was too stupid to know the difference. And so in fact, after I completed my 2nd tour, I got married. As I said, I won't have to go overseas again. I got married in the middle of October, and they transferred me to a squadron, VS-23 at Largot. And I walked in, and said, "We just in time?" And I said, "Just in time for what?" It says, "We leave a week from today for 9 months." I damn near sat down and cried. So anyhow, that was a very interesting cruise. We ended up going to Hong Kong, and we were the first American ship allowed into Hong Kong after the communists took over in 1949. And so thousands of immigrants were into Hong Kong. I can remember distinctly that density was unbelievable. They would rent rooms in 8-hour shifts. They would move in, get their 8 hours, have to move out, next one get 8 hours. So they'd actually get 3 families in there in 24 hours. And so we had a lot of activities or interchange with the British, because it was a British colony still at that time, Hong Kong. And so one of the things that put a big kibosh on it is, I hate to tell you this, so we're in a bar, and it's a British pub. We're on Kowloon, which is basically the mainland of Hong Kong. And the Queen died. The mother of the current Queen. It's been there since then. And so it was dead silence in there. And all the British soldiers, there was like 50 of them, and there were 4 of us. And they said,
"Let's go eat on things." Yes.
"God save the Queen." They all had a drink to it. And this idiot that was with us had the audacity to drop the F-bomb for the Queen. And there was a split second of silence. And 4 of us hit the window and went through there, ran as fast as we could, and dove into that filthy, beautiful water. So it didn't swim to our ship. And it so upset the British command. Word got back to the commander that they stopped all the activities. Could we play soccer with us, and they beat us 100-0, and we'd play softball against them, and they'd beat us. We'd beat them 100-0 because of this, the skills that you develop and these kinds of things. And then it was interesting because, like, I jumped ahead on that story. What happened when we first get Hong Kong? You wear whites. What they call dress whites to go in the tropical areas. So anyhow, you have to pass inspection to get off shift, so we were all spick and span. And as soon as we got on, came ashore, little kids started throwing mud on us, on our whites, when of course in normal reactions, get away from me. And then communists are taking pictures of it. And then all of a sudden it hits the newspapers all over the world. You think you compare it all, we never left the ship again in uniform. And so then, it was interesting. So then the captain makes a deal and all of these guys would come on that ship and fit us for civilian clothes. And I can remember, like, blue suede shoes to the Warren Ford at that time. So I got a pair of custom-made blue suede shoes where I was at $4 thicky. Draw a line around your foot. Next day you'd have a brand new, a beautiful pair of shoes. And so that was pretty interesting. But we were still pretty naive about it. So we're on leave, and one of the things I remember most is it became May Day, which is a communist holiday, and we were just not thinking about communism at that time. We were pretty naive. And so, make a long story short, I got stuck in a house of no repute that I just happened to be walking by at the time. And so I was stuck with a buddy of mine and 17 ladies of leisure, and it was hell. But in fact, we got caught again one time. We were at Sugi, which is a base in Japan, on a May Day. So, coming back to the ship, and Phil Forrest were walking across the bridge, and these communist demonstrators saw us, and were in our uniforms. They threw us off the bridge. We weren't ready to do. And but it was just points out how we were not for fear for the animosity. How you doing? Good. And that was interesting. So then our captain on our ship, and this was an AVP, that's a small seaplane tender, had been a big time running back for Navy. You know, I don't know if he was All-American or not, but he was really well known, called Jumpin' Joe Clifton. And Jumpin' Joe loved our donuts our baker made. And so every time we passed another ship, and he outranked them all because he was a full captain. And usually, we'd run across guys who were captained by commanders. So he'd say, pull up the rest of us, we're going to pass over some donuts. Even, I don't care how high the sea was. So we'd have all these collisions at sea to pass donuts. And that was pretty interesting. So then, the fall of the French at DMB improved. And so he volunteered us to go there to help take the French soldiers up there. We went to Taiwan, which became nationalist China. But it was Taiwan, we were growing up. And highlight was Chiang Kai-shek came aboard and inspected us, walked by, looked at us, so that was kind of interesting. But we were pretty naive about what was going on in the world. And politically, nobody paid much attention, we just killed time. I used a lot of the time to educate myself. I ran across some guys who were free. And for instance, we'd hang on the hook on a seaplane tender. And we were in Okinawa for 6 months in a place called Butler Bay. And we were there for 6 months. And we got 3x5 cards, me and a buddy of mine, and started writing down vocabulary words. And then we test ourselves weekly and monthly. And the offshoot of that is, God, I had a big vocabulary. Which paid off in the long run because I was a high school dropout and I'd learned, Jesus, I got to go to college. So it turns out, and if you're a veteran from the state of California and can pass the entrance exam, you can get into college without a high school diploma, without a GED, without anything. Well, the entrance exam was a piece of cake for me because so much of it was predicated on vocabulary. So anyhow, it's an advantage of it. I got the GI Bill and I got an education and became a teacher. So from a dumb street punk, when I went in to eventually a college graduate with a couple of degrees. So I don't know, is that enough?
Talk about more of the transition.
Right now, what to what?
The military to the civilian.
Okay, the transition from the military, was really simple. When I got discharged, they had to give you a blood test, for example. This pops into line. And so we had guys who stayed in, we called lifers. And so this technician who was taking our blood was pissed off at everybody. And so he'd go there to take your blood, and he'd take the needle and drop it on the tile and bend the front and then grind into your arm for about 5 minutes. The blood. And can't say a thing because you know you're out of there. This is the last step. So I got on what they used to call the nickel snatcher here in San Diego Harbor. And as soon as I got on the nickel snatcher, I tore my uniform off and gave all the Marines a finger and we were far enough away. And my wife was waiting for me, and off I went. So the transition, I had the foresight, because the last 6 months I've been there, we were stationed in North Island. So I applied for veterans housing. So I was the first veteran in years to ever get into veterans housing because I'd applied well in advance. So I got into veterans housing. So the transition was, I was motivated when I was at college, you know, and I had a kid, and I had another kid. I had my second kid, my second semester, I think, of college. But I did not find the transition difficult. It helped me. I did a lot of things in college that I thought about doing when I was in high school, but I didn't want to be like those punks. Then I became one. So it was interesting experiences. But from my point of view as an enlisted man, nobody really talked much about politics, what was going on, you know. I mean, we were all aware of, you know, MacArthur, all that stuff that was happening at the time. No, it was not a difficult transition at all.
How would you say society has changed from that time now till now?
Well, the difference in society is, as I perceive it, is it was a gentler world. It was a more noble world. We were naive. I mean, I look at it as the father knows best, leave it to beaver mentality that everybody had. You know, people were polite. I was raised politely. If a woman walked in the room, you stood up. You tilted your hat, you know, if they had it on. If you're walking on the street, you always walk on the street side. You know, just out of courtesy, you open doors. All of that's gone. Women's lifts changed all that. Women took umbrage with some of that and said, that's demeaning. We're not going to, you don't have to do that crap for us. And so I find that as a significant change. But obviously the biggest change is the technology. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And of course, my kids, my grandkids, they get all did work. And they help me out. But I'm a dinosaur. I have no gift whatsoever for any of that stuff. I got a smartphone in my pocket. I can't text them. My kids and grandkids will eat crap, you know, and tell me I'm a retard, which I am, so that's it. Well, but there was no difficulty in transitioning. You know, we didn't have post-PSTD in those days, you know. Yeah, they caught shell shock, I think, all over in World War II. But it was tough for the guys who were in the troops. I didn't want to go into the Navy. That when I found out they were going to draft me in a week, I instantly went to the Air Force and wanted to volunteer. And they said, "Great, we'd love to have you, but the waiting list is 60,000, and I wasn't going to get in a week." So then I went to what we used to call the Subway Sailors, which was the Coast Guard, and I volunteered for them. And they said, "We'd love to have you. It's 50,000 people waiting to get in here." Well, my IQ registered, so I wasn't eligible for Marine Corps. If it's over double digits, you can't get in. That's my standing joke, Marines. Unfortunately, they all have a good sense of humor. Don't work me. And when I tell them that so that left the Navy. That's why it's in the Navy. So I had buddies. I had a buddy, for example, in Korea. It was really bad when they'd send him over to Heartbreak Ridge and some of that stuff. He was very famous. He shot himself in the foot to get out of there, you know. Especially being from Southern California, from the LA area, that weather, you know, up there at the 38th parallel was incredibly freezing, and was not a comfortable situation. I had a good buddy, and he was a tough kid, and he came back on leave, and he was listening to T. Happy Dad. And I said, "What happened?" He says, "The DI hit I said, what'd you do? And he said, I was carrying my rifle crooked. And I said, Jesus, why did they do that? And he said, well, I was drafted. Well, they didn't get enough people in the Marines, so he had to go to the Marine boot camp. And in Marine boot camp, he had to have an SS for selective service on his arm. And he said, they really got abused. So I had all kinds of bizarre experiences, but probably not appropriate.
Any advice would you give someone that's interested in joining the military as a career path?
My advice would give them to keep your nose clean. Obey the rules because they have all the power. In fact, when I first came in, they had what they call silent contempt. You didn't have to say anything. They didn't like the look on your face. You could be court-martialed. And it forced you to be really disciplined and be careful of what you did. And so, but I would say to anybody, it adds great merit to go into the service because you can get trained, you can get a skill, especially in this technical age. And of course, the military is on the cutting edge of most of that technology. And you can name your own price when you get out. Or you can go to school. So I would encourage anybody to do it. Plus, you're going something for your country.
Thank you. It's good.
Is that what you wanted?